Hello. Oh, look, the stream started. All right. Let me just get the mic in a better place. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the countdown stream. I already see that a few of my regulars are already in there. We got Shahar. We've got Romeo over there. And sorry, my stream started in my own browser and I distracted myself. We do have Romeo here. We've got Girl You Done Notice. We got Shahar. We've got Ace. So here we are. This is the stream. Oh, and Corentin is here too. So, and Big Seltzer, which is obviously the lobby for Alka-Seltzer. Got W.R. Costin. So yeah, a lot of the regs are already here. Awesome. So if there's any non-regs, and this is your first time here, this is something that I do on Step Back every week. It's a 1 hour long little stream where I talk to the audience, take some questions. Apparently, I always go on a super long rant about capitalism. And then at the end of it, a new Step Back video comes out, and you guys can go and watch that and then enjoy the rest of your afternoon or evening or morning or, whatever works for you. I'm not here to tell you what to do. That's Romeo. That is one of my cats. And yeah, so usually what I do is I take questions from you guys, talk about things that are going on, etc., etc., etc. I do see. So, did you do some research on Operation Titanic? It does seem to be very similar to the events of World War II that the game Ruse was based on. So Ace has been asking me to do a video on Operation Titanic, which I might do. I haven't gone into the details to find out about how good a video it would end up being, but it seems to be about making a lot of like fake things and all sorts of crazy things. So let's talk about a possible proxy war in Syria. I guess we could do that. That sounds fun. So Syria, for those who haven't been following, has been in a state of civil war now for, close to 7 years. I think it was 2011 when it started, maybe 2014, sometime in like the early 2010s. And Syria has been having a nonstop civil war since then. And yeah, so there's a lot in the story there. There's the whole fact that the Syrian civil war started as a point in the Arab Spring, which had already propped up in several countries. It propped up in Tunisia, which led to a lot of government reforms. It propped up in Egypt, which led to a lot of government, bubbling up. It had a lot of there's been a lot of shake in the Egyptian government that we're still working through to today. You had uprisings in Libya, which led to the deposing and murder of Muammar Gaddafi. And in various other Middle Eastern countries, the Arab Spring, which is this movement against these long-standing, corrupt, opaque governments, led to some changes, some weird changes in various countries, more specifically in these former Ba'athist single-party republic type countries. It was less successful in the Gulf monarchies and things like that. Not that they didn't happen in those countries, it's just that they were way better at putting them down. But Syria is a country that has a lot going on inside. I think you would have seen something very similar to this happening in Iraq, if it had happened in Iraq a little bit earlier. And so, because Saddam Hussein's Iraq and Bashar al-Assad's Syria are very similar in the kinds of problems that they're having. So Syria had a breakout in combat, and all of a sudden, before even the first thing started happening, there were tons of factions that broke off with different interests. Syria is a country with multiple cultures, multiple languages, multiple religions, multiple sects of those religions, all sort of vying for different types of combat or different types of status. For example, there is a large Kurdish population in the northeast of Syria, which took the opportunity of the Syrian civil war to become functionally independent. And this is where they formed a region called Rojava, another subject that people have been yelling at me to make a video about, except for the fact that it's still an ongoing thing. It'd be hard to make a history video about Rojava. And they're part of an ethnic group called Kurds, who live in a region called Kurdistan, which straddles Turkey, Iraq, and Iran, and Syria. And so they're trying to at least, and also in Iraq, there's attempts to make Kurdish footholds and decide what's going on. So as the Syrian civil war continued, other groups have started to become important players. For example, during the American invasion of Iraq, the overthrowing of the government and the insurgency that followed, there was a group called Al-Qaeda in Iraq, which expanded and eventually became the Islamic State of Iraq, which then moved into this chaotic system to take over and become the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria. And that was the idea behind ISIS's movement. They were trying to take advantage of the chaos that was going on in Syria in order to build this fundamentalist state that they wanted to have. They've now been thoroughly defeated because even though there's a civil war going on, almost every faction except for ISIS could agree that ISIS was bad. And so now ISIS is more or less gone at this point. But there's a lot of crazy things that do need to be mentioned. First, Bashar al-Assad's still going, and it looks like, at least the last time I checked up on the Syrian civil war, he's still ahead of the game. He's still like on the up foot in what's going on. He's not losing. And because Syria for decades now has been a long-term ally of the Soviet Union and then Russia, it's getting at least tacit support from Vladimir Putin and their Russian allies. So the Syrian main government has Russian allies. The United States, because it was already involved in 2 wars, has been kind of waffling over what groups it's trying to support. It tried supporting a group called the Syrian Free Army, which I don't think... The Syrian Free Army is a group that I actually don't know a ton about. I have been having trouble trying to figure out what the Syrian Free Army really is about. And they've been supporting the Kurds. The Kurds, the Rojava region that I've been talking about. Here's the problem. There is a U.S. ally who is heavily involved in this war in Syria, and that is Turkey. Turkey has a Kurdistani minority in their region in Turkey, and they are agitators. They have, committed acts of violence to try and turn Kurdistan, to get the Kurdistani territory away from Turkey, and the Turks have responded with brutal repression. And now the Turks, led by Erdogan, are trying to mess around with the Kurdistani government in Syria, while their ally, the USA, is helping the Kurds, while Russia is tacitly helping Bashar al-Assad. And Assad is kind of a terrible dictator. He is a country like Syria that has so many different groups vying for control of one state, you're going to result in a lot of small... you're going to result in a government that is run by a brutal dictator. It's the same story that happened in Iraq. It's the same story that happened in Yugoslavia. It's just, it's difficult to manage those very diverse countries just lopped together under one roof for reasons of colonialism mostly. So Turkey and the United States are kind of having a rough moment right now. But once Trump took over, Trump has had a much friendlier relationship with Russia and has been wanting the U.S. to stay more or less out of the Syrian conflict until recently. And this is where things are getting crazy. So last week, there was a gas attack in Douma, which is a suburb of the Syrian capital of Damascus. And this gas attack has been very quickly turned into, has been very quickly blamed on Bashar al-Assad and the Russians. This has happened like almost instantly. And while that could possibly be true, there are a few things to consider. One, why is Bashar al-Assad using these weapons? He knows that the gas attack that he did do a few years earlier almost resulted in the U.S. Invading Syria. He knows that the use of weapons of mass destruction are dangerous because that escalates the conflict to a point where the international community will think to get involved. And as far as I can find, there's like a lot of missing information. There's the strategic reason for using this gas attack is not doesn't really make a lot of sense. So even though, in countries that are run by dictators, logic doesn't always have to play a role. It would be very easy for someone to do a gas attack and then have people blame Bashar al-Assad because he's already done gas attacks, and then justify intervention in Syria when Assad looks like he's winning. And so this could be a way for the people who are losing to try and turn the tides by provoking international involvement. At the very least, the likelihood is that something needs to... There's about too many unanswered questions to really blame anybody at this point. You really need to be looking at the evidence, and there really needs to be a impartial investigation. We have an entire branch of the United Nations dedicated to doing just this task. Good old tea. And these UN weapons inspectors should probably go in and figure out what's going on, just like they did in the last attack. But the U.S. media, the U.S. liberal media thing, is already super duper excited. They're all like CNN and MSNBC and Fox are already having wargasms over the idea of the U.S. getting involved with the Syrian civil war. And Trump's an idiot, so Trump can be convinced of anything, even if it's apocalyptic, because getting involved in the war on the side of Syria when you have Russia supporting Assad's government is a recipe for some pretty crummy stuff. So that's the long short end of it. But yeah, it's becoming a proxy war. And the problem, though, is that the civil war in Syria is also becoming... because the world is becoming less democratic over time, with the United States kind of losing its democracy right now with Generalissimo Trump, with Turkey becoming less of a democracy with the kind of same type of leader with Erdogan, with Russia having Putin being powerful, you have this sort of moving away from the democracy in a lot of countries, and dictators, because they don't have people to answer to, can do whatever they want, and that means more wars typically. So, yeah. Unfortunately, Syria has become a chess match for a bunch of the world's working out its own problems. I didn't even mention the role that Saudi Arabia and Iran, which have been having a Cold War in the Middle East for decades, plays in that conflict as well. So there's all sorts of people trying to promote their own interests in that region. And that really sucks for the Syrians, because that means this war is just going to keep raging on. People are just going to keep pouring weapons and money and volunteers into it in order to play out their geopolitical ambitions. And the last thing on anyone's mind is like the Syrian people. And when the Syrians are trying to just get out of that mess. There's a humanitarian crisis. They're trying to go to Europe. They're trying to just get out of the region. And that results in the radical right, even the moderate right now at this point, trying to stop them from escaping this war that seems to have no end. And really, the best option for a Syrian civil war for us who are not in Syria would be to not get involved and try to help with anybody who's trying to escape that mess and save as many lives as possible. Make a safe zone. Try to get the UN peacekeepers involved. Try to prevent mass deaths, mass casualties, and find places for all of the refugees who are trying to get out of the country. But that would involve, empathy and justice and all those things that geopolitics seems to be lacking. All right. So W.R. Costin wants to know, were any of the changes caused by the Arab Spring good, bad, or inconsequential? In a lot of cases, the effects of the Arab Spring have yet to be seen. The Egyptians are still feeling the fallout of it. Although Egypt lost a leader who had been running the country for decades, which is interesting. So Egypt's situation is a lot more chaotic than it used to be. It's not really sure yet whether or not it's going to be a positive change. Libya, same situation. I think Libya is still facing a low fever civil war. And Tunisia is a country where the Arab Spring did a lot of good. The Arab Spring made a lot of major government reforms happen in Tunisia that made more government transparency and better democracy. And it allowed for a lot of liberalization organizations to open up Tunisia, which was actually really good. Tunisia is a success story from the Arab Spring. I know that there was something that popped up in Saudi Arabia that got very violently put down, but fear of it has probably pushed a little bit of the tiny nudges that Saudi Arabia is trying to do towards liberalization, but not much. But yeah, that's probably all the stuff that I can say. I think, though, to answer your question, W.R. Costin, that the Arab Spring's impacts have yet to be fully realized. And if anything, it's caused a lot of chaos. Do you think that the war will end soon? I don't. Unless international involvement starts, like if the United States gets involved or if Russia gets involved in a real way. Well, first of all, the potential of World War III starts there because Russia and the U.S. are on opposite sides of that. But if you think more of a Cold War dynamic, it's a recipe for a longer-term conflict. But because nobody can ever agree to just split up the country, nobody allows that. So you have to. It's going to be a proxy war for a long time. from a moral standpoint, who would win the Syrian civil war? In my opinion, the Syrians. I think that, which I know sounds like a cop-out, but I do think that a proper way to win, to quote-unquote win the Syrian civil war, would be to break up Syria. I think that Syria, like Yugoslavia, like Iraq, is a country that should not be a country. And I think that if Syria broke up into several states, you would have a more long-term peaceful solution. If you could get Iraq involved in that too, and you could have an agreement that would kind of undo the Sykes-Picot agreement in a way and try to decolonize that region, that would probably be the best option. But that's, I know, is asking for way too much. Back when the war started, did you have any idea that the war would have become so big and important? Well, Corentin, I think that when the Syrian civil war was first starting, it was that there were protests in Damascus. And what made it different from the other Arab Spring uprisings was that Assad bombed his own people. He actually called an air raid in on a protest. And I think when that happened, there was a sign that things had really changed, which made it a little bit different from the other things. Girthax wants to know, I find it hard to believe that Assad is responsible for the gas attack. Assad may be a brutal dictator, but at least he's a secular leader and doesn't want an Islamic state. Thoughts? I think that the gas attack done by Assad has too many open questions. I wouldn't put it past Assad to do something like that. He's done it before. From my perspective, it seems like it doesn't make logical, strategic sense to do it. But he's a dictator. He doesn't need to do things with logical, strategic decision-making. And on top of that, Assad, on top of that, in my mind, it's hard to say that he did do it. To me, the signs point to that he probably didn't, but it's still not a thing that I would put past him. And so let's not go crazy. I do think that it's a thing where there's not enough information to make any sort of decision at this point. Speaking of Turkey, do you have any thoughts on the Cyprus problem, as in possible solutions with Turkey being so pushy? That's an interesting question. So I'm not super well informed on this. I do know that Cyprus is an island in the Mediterranean that has been sort of split between its Turkish-speaking and Greek-speaking populations, and that there is a Turkish republic that's been established in Cyprus called the Turkish Republic of Cyprus, I think it's called, and that the world doesn't recognize the country, but Turkey heavily asserts that there is that the Turkish Republic of Cyprus is legit. I don't know what the deal is, though. That's about the extent of what I know. I think that I would probably say that I would need to do more research, but that talking about the conflict in Cyprus might be an interesting video topic. So I should at least write that down. I'm going to grab myself an index card, which is what I usually do for my streams. And I'll write that down. But it's also a larger story because Turks and Greeks have been fighting since time immemorial. So this is another place where their rivalry has come to fruition. Okay. the humanitarian crisis right now is worse in either Syria or Yemen. I think that the Yemeni crisis is more intense, with Syria committing this genocidal war on Yemen. I think the Syrian crisis, though, is bigger. It involves more people. Both of them are huge problems, and definitely we need to be helping out. We need to be helping the people from those countries find places to be safe and away from danger, and hopefully, find some semblance of happiness in this world while the countries. Do I farm ideas off of you? I totally do. I take recommendations all the time. I write down random ideas that come up. I'm always on the lookout for new ideas. I have tons of them. I have literally hundreds of video ideas that are just sitting around that I have to get around to making. But it's never going to get. It's never going to get to where I need to be. I think that, though, I will say that I usually evaluate and move forward with subjects that were suggested to me by my viewers faster than I do the ones I just randomly have thought up. Corentin wants a video on modern Greece. Could be interesting. There's one problem that comes up a lot, and that is you guys suggest a lot of video ideas that nobody knows anything about. And unfortunately, with the way that YouTube works, so the way that YouTube works is that people tend to find videos based on things that they already know about and or know of but not about, and they're trying to look it up. And so a lot of times you guys recommend video ideas that are very obscure and would make interesting videos, but it would be hard for me to do that subject without a really compelling story to get people to watch it. And then usually these are long-term videos with like lots of characters, and it makes it kind of hard for a video to get the sort of traction it needs. And so, I mean, I take these ideas and I definitely am trying to work on them. They just take a lot more work and to try and market, especially because my channel's still pretty small. And if I was a larger channel, if I was more self-sufficient, then maybe it would be easier to push these things. But you know, that's the thing. Definitely share and spam my more risky videos. That would be great. Maximiliano Tron wants to ask, what do you recommend to start watching your channel? For example, the video you are most proud of or something like that. The fascism video is pretty good. My favorites are that one, the video I did with Ines from Draw Curiosity about Aisha, because I think that's a pretty big theme in my videos. My channel has a lot of themes of anti-Islamophobic themes in it. And I think that I actually even have a channel or a playlist on my channel that is for new people, and it kind of gives a good survey. So there's, I think that, yeah, the new to Step Back Start Here playlist is a pretty good way to get a start. But also, you guys in the chat, why don't you recommend like your favorite video from the channel and recommend a video from the channel to them and see what happens. And Shahar, I'm very sorry that you're not going to be here next week. I apologize. Comrade, you have to go? All right. See you later, Ace. But Massimiliano, I'm sure that there are lots of suggestions from viewers in the chat here who would probably have a better idea of what of my things are good and bad than I do, because, you know, I make them, so I'm not really objective. Oh. So, you got class at 1:40. You have class in 10 minutes, girl, you done notice. Oh my God. How are you going to get there on time? Hopefully you're like in a dorm or something and you could just run to class. You try to push the D&D theme video. You know what? I'm actually planning on I'm doing a one more video in the Know Your Fantasy series, and then I'm kind of retiring it for a while because they don't perform too well. People don't seem to like my folklore videos that much. So I'm doing dwarves next, and then I think I'm going to stop for a while. I have some other ones that I wanted to do, but the data doesn't seem... People seem to like when my videos are very long and very depressing, so fun videos about where dwarves come from just doesn't seem to be on the docket for now. You guys want a video on the FARC, huh? That'd be fun. Colombia. I do have to do more Latin American stuff. That's for sure. The end of the Soviet Union video was pretty good. That was part of a 6-part video series I did with my friend Cypher, the Cynical Historian. And we did 6 videos where he took 1 week, I took the next week, etc., etc., etc. And it was about revolutions in American history, or revolutions in world history. And so we started with like the bourgeois revolution, and we talked about sort of all these different revolutions throughout history. And I found myself getting all the socialism ones. And so I ended up doing the rise of socialism in the early 20th century and the collapse of the communist world in the late 80s and early 90s. A video on Nicaragua in the 80s would be interesting, and I have a friend whose parents are Sandinistas, so that would be really good. And they're from Nicaragua. I have a friend who's... Your dad used to tell you about a Dominican dictator in the Dominican Republic. You mean Trujillo? Trujillo would... I've actually been to the Dominican Republic, and I've been to Santo Domingo, the capital of the country. And yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff about Trujillo there. It's pretty cool. Let's talk about your last video. Sure. What do you want to know about my last video? The 2-parter, the Israel 2-parter. It is now finished. It's out there. Condor plan, Flint, Michigan water. That'd be cool. Lead would be just kind of an interesting thing in general. So, I don't know. My last 2 videos were really big successes. People seem to really like them. I have been accused of all sorts of horrible things because of my talking about Israel. I feel like I did my best to be to be a step back and look at it from the outside in a good way. I had a friend of mine who is a Palestinian rights activist look them over, and he thought they were pretty good. I tried. I put a lot of elbow grease into that Israel 2-parter, and it's pretty exciting. I have I think the next stretch goal video is going to be coming out pretty soon, or at least it's on the list, to do a video about Iran and the birth of the Iranian Revolution. And I think I'm doing that one. Iranian Revolution comes out on May 31st. So that's the next stretch goal video. And I'm actually on Patreon $2 away, $2 a month away from doing a video on the eugenics movement. So Patreon's going well. Your dad was born in Santo Domingo. That's pretty cool. It's a pretty fun city. Could you do a video about the priest class of the Inca Empire? That's very specific. Incas would be fun. The priest class, I can write that one down. If there's something particularly compelling about it. There is definitely the Quipu technology, which I think is pretty cool. Cool thing that the Incan people, the Quichua-speaking people had, where they had an entire written language that was made out of tying knots, which I think was kind of neat. Well, thank you, Shahar, for thank you for your approval of my Israel video. I was very worried about releasing that, and then the videos did great, and people love them. So I'm really excited that that you liked it. I will. This video, the one that comes out in 24 minutes, is about taxes, which will be fun. I do make a few grumpy video. I do have a few grumpy things I say about people. You prefer videos that talk about ancient and medieval history. I do have to balance things out quite a bit. It's oh boy. Okay. I have to there's so many things to do a balancing act on this channel about what content I do, because there's just so many interests involved. Like there's people who really like when I'm talking about something that's relevant for today in a big way, something that's more modern history. I have people who really like when I talk about internet, like all sorts of different countries and more ancient stuff, which I think is really cool. And then I also have a video, or I also am an expert on American history, and I like to be, it's more comfy for me to do videos on American history, and so sometimes I screw that one up. Christina of Sweden. All right, I'll take a look into that. I think I wrote that one down, but yeah, it's on taxes, taxes, as in money that the government takes from you for various things. It's good. It explains what different types of taxes are, the kind of brief history of taxes, and how people get interested in things. When it comes to Texas, though, I actually have an idea about Texas. There's a video series. There's a video series that I plan on doing in the near future. Whenever, one of them. Oh, say hello to Phoebe, everybody. Come on. Come on, Phoebe. Just trying to take a nap on my desk. So I was planning on doing a video series that was called Dead Countries, which would be histories of countries that don't exist anymore. And Texas was a country for like a decade. So that's on my list of something to do. Oh no, girl, you didn't notice. You got to run a class. It's in like 2 minutes. Oh my God, you're going to be late for Economics 301. Oh no. Video on Ciro and Methodius. Oh my. I got a lot to put in here. You're sitting in the room, the professor is late. Well, then I guess I'll just be your prof for what is the class? Is it economics? Is it fiction writing? Well, the protagonist is the most important character in your story. And if you're introducing people to a new fictional world, then you should make your protagonist the closest person to an everyman to be a sit-in for the reader who is also not familiar with the world of the book, which makes them discover the world along with the character. Fiction writing. Yeah, there you go. Free lesson. Rome as a dead country, that would probably be, yeah. That would probably be a good one. I have Texas. I think I'm supposed to start that series with the Confederate States of America, which would be... The Confederate States of America is the first one I want to do, and people are going to... See you later, girl. That you don't notice. Yeah, so... The first one's going to be the Confederate States of America, and I'm totally going to rip apart that, like, you know, the whole... It's going to be fun. I'm going to, like, talk about, like, oh, yeah, it's this whole country that was dedicated to the preservation and maintenance of slavery, and it was totally about slavery. Any good YouTube history channels? There are several. You've already got Extra History. That's a good one. Townsend's is a good one, where they cook a lot of food from the 18th century, which I think is really neat. Primitive Technology is actually quite good as a sort of hands-on history channel. That see you later, Corinne. Approche. Do you watch CGP Grey? I watch the shit out of CGP Grey. CGP Grey is a great channel. He hasn't made a video in like 6 months. Another great history, Endless Knot is a good history channel. I like, oh my, Cypher, the Cynical Historian. I like how everyone's giving me the ideas right as I think of them, or right before I think of them. Cogito is a small but pretty good history YouTube channel that's probably going to take off soon because he's getting a pretty big collaboration going. Kings and Generals is a pretty well done one. I haven't heard of Armchair Historian. That's a new one. The thing, though, is that it's really hard to find history channels on YouTube that aren't about just like the straight up same things over and over again. War, conflict, war, more war, war all the time, war, more wars, awesome wars, wars forever. Which, you know, is fine if that's your thing, but, you know, there's also Timelines. Timelines they're a publishing company that got the rights to put up, I think it's like BBC or some, they have the right to put up some companies' documentaries. And so it's actually a YouTube channel full of like full-length documentaries, which are like, you know, like the legit ones made for TVs. Yeah, so Knowledge Hub is a good channel for history. Feature history. There's also It's History. This is a channel that I really like, which are made by the same people who make The Great War, but they don't talk about the Great War. They talk about other things. It's History is great. LGBT Monarchs, Sir Zhao Zhao. That one is on my list. I actually just was looking at that one yesterday about what I should do. And I'm going to try to see if I can make it in June. Oh, yeah, Kings and Generals is a great channel. And also, I hear he lives in Toronto, and he should hang out with me. I know he lives in Toronto. I know he lives very close to me. I've been asking for him to hang out with me, but he's not good at the Twitter DMs. Anyways. But yes, LGBTQ Monarchs is something I have on my list, and I actually want to see if I can get a collabo going with like Rowan Ellis or something to spice up the discussion, because I think that I want to do histories I want to do histories that have more like queer content, like LGBTQ content. My audience doesn't seem too receptive to it, but that shouldn't stop me. So I would like to see if I can work with somebody who does stuff with like LGBTQ content and try and give it some more exposure to other people. Who's racist on YouTube? Have you been on YouTube? It's like half of the website. Racist people on YouTube. I mean, there's that Swedish bodybuilder. He's pretty racist. The golden one. There's Sargon of Akkad. He's a pretty big racist. There's all of right-wing rational YouTube. Yeah, there's like a whole underground community of like the quote-unquote mapping channels that have a whole lot of secret racists and not so secret racists in there. Black Pigeon Speaks, that's another one. Black Pigeon Speaks is a channel where I was so, for some reason, Black Pigeon Speaks, his videos were getting recommended, or he was getting recommended step back videos, his viewers, and so I was getting a lot of traffic on like suggested views from Black Pigeon Speaks videos, and I was just getting these deluges of hate comments, and it was just the worst. It was a bad month. Rantasmo. I will look at Rantasmo. As the kids say, spill that tea. Stefan Molyneux. He's pretty terrible. What do you mean, Doughboy DeVito, about spilling that tea? You mean this? This tea? It's gone now. I drank it all. Emperor Tiger Star is not racist, but there's a lot of really small mapping channels that have a lot of crazy racist people in it. And also, I don't get the mapping channels that much. There's a lot of mapping channels that are like telling future history of Europe where like the European countries talk to each other. And I don't know. I still haven't had anybody explain mapping channels in a way that makes sense to me yet. I've had some attention from the mapping channel people in the past, and I've never been able to understand what motivates them to do the thing that they're doing. If someone can explain to me, if I can get an ELI 5 for mapping channels, I would be very happy, because it's not even like they're telling real maps. They're usually making like fake maps of hypothetical futures that have no plausibility, and I don't understand. I also wonder if Europeans love the fact that like nerdy kids in like the United States keep like redrawing their continent's map over and over again. I feel like if I lived in Europe, I'd be very confused and weirded out by how often people like to redraw the map of Europe. Feels very weird. Let's see. The British Museum has a YouTube channel, and their series Curator's Corner is pretty good. I'm obsessed with Irving Finkel. Yeah, doesn't the British Museum have that? They had a really great video they did with Tom Scott where they played the King's Game, the ancient Sumerian board game. That was pretty cool. Weekly D&D update. You fought some undead dwarves and some ghosts. Well, does that mean that you've worked out your time travel problems? Hello, Rational Rhino 1488 here. That Great Dutchman, that is an amazing name for a YouTube channel for a rational, racist skeptic that probably has 500,000 subscribers and a Patreon that makes $20,000 a month or something. They'd be called Rational Rhino 1488. What restaurants would you recommend an American tourist going in Canada to do? Um, okay, so an American tourist in Canada, um, Smokes Patinery is a pretty good one. It's a poutine restaurant that it's a pretty big chain. It really depends upon what city you're going to, Doughboy DeVito, because Canada is a really big country and it's really different in different places. If you're going to Toronto, I would eat all sorts of crazy food because this is the most diverse city on the planet where you can get anything. And I definitely recommend that. If you're going to like Vancouver, I have less to tell you. I haven't been to Vancouver since I was 10 years old. And if you're going to Newfoundland, kiss the cod and drink Screech. But yeah. Crazy stuff. So we have 10 minutes left. What would you guys like to talk about? London? Like London, Ontario? Oh boy. I know there's a patinery in London. Oh god, Red Pill Philosophy. That's a pretty bad channel. Patin looks weird. It is weird, but it's good. It's really good if you're drunk. So if you ever get drunk, definitely try Patin. I love it. I love the way the Shachars talk about the D&D group, like they're exterminators. They're like, we're gonna take care of your undead problem here. We'll just go in and do a little spray, and they should be gone. Do you think it's plausible that a drought-stricken American could invade rural Canada for drinking water? Maybe. I still think that Canadians would capitulate before they would invade, because there's no winning that war. What's your favorite pre-Roman Empire / civilization? Ooh. Maybe the Assyrian Empire. The Assyrians were pretty intense and hardcore and really weird. They did a lot of flaying people alive. What's your opinion on the Zod? Well, let's find out what the Zod is. An anarchist commune that is intended to blockade a development. Is there one of these going on right now that I don't know about? I'm confused. So it's a French anarchist thing, but is there something there's something in particular I'm supposed to be knowing about? The oldest one's being rated right now. Now that, do you have opinions? Well, that sounds like it sucks. Rating an anarchist commune is never a good thing. I would prefer my anarchist communes go unrated. I love communes. I wish the entire world was one big commune. Whenever that happens. You're also a tiefling prince. And you're still playing 4th edition too, right? Because I think that the 5th edition books haven't been translated into Hebrew yet. Or is there another reason why you're playing 4th edition? It's the most successful anarchist coming to date. That's pretty cool. I like it. Ooh. Man. That was a lot of rapid fire talking. If that's true, I'm very sad. I like anarchist communes. Ancient aliens. Oh man, I need to write that one down. I've had a lot of people who are asking me to talk about ancient aliens. I have had more than a few people say that I should do an Ancient Aliens video. I'm not sure how I'd make it work, but it would make a stellar people, a stellar video. The one about anarchist communes. I'm just imagining the video. Ooh, the history of anarchist communes. Yeah. Old Romeo here. He's a good guy. He's a good kitty. I'm not saying it's Ancient Aliens, but it's Ancient Aliens. I used to get a lot of recommendations to talk about Ancient Aliens in the distant past, but I don't think I do today. I don't get many requests to do that anymore. The Zod in particular. Okay. What conspiracy theories do you believe? Oh, The Zod. General Zod. Okay. I don't know of any conspiracy theories that I believe in. I imagine that there might be, but who knows? Ooh. Best historical facial hair. I mean, Marx's going full Hagrid sounds pretty fun. You're starting a YouTube channel in Hebrew. Well, that's really good. Hebrew's a good... I'm sure there's not a ton of Hebrew YouTube channels, so if you do high-quality videos, then people will like you. Marx had quite a crazy... The Victorian age is a pretty good... I'll go with General Burnsides. General Burnsides had some crazy hair. Go look him up. He had quite a good thing going. JFK, RFK, MLK. If you have a 3-letter name, you'll be murdered by the CIA. I don't know. I feel like that's a little far. I like how all the secrets of the JFK assassination coming out over time has pretty much resulted in them saying the reason they covered it up is because they were worried about exposing their people they had in other countries trying to screw up with things. History of Fred Hamptons. SBH. Well, now the CIA is going to come after me. Thanks a lot, Sir Zhao Zhao. So we're coming to the end here. If you have any, the School of the Americas, now that would be a good one. All right. Actually, this gives me a thing I can say is that I do actually, the whole deep state, national security state thing, that is definitely a quote-unquote conspiracy theory that I do believe in. Of that there's people who promote certain interests specifically to perpetuate militarization, intervention in foreign countries that pretty much supersedes any party or administration. But I feel like that's not a conspiracy theory. That's just pretty well known. But then again, people deny that. Are you a fan of Secular Talk / the Kyle Kulinski Show? I've seen some Secular Talk episodes. I just haven't. I don't listen. I don't watch it regularly, but I've seen the occasional video and I've enjoyed what I watched. Have you? Oh, I haven't seen the extra history video yet. I'm still very behind on YouTube videos. I've been watching YouTube videos to catch up for a long time. The fascist anarchist. Wow. You really don't know what those words mean, do you? All right. Well, I guess it's about time to wrap up, everybody. I hope you guys enjoy this next video. Please like and share and subscribe it, please, or subscribe and like and share it, because like this video might need a bit of love to get more attention, because it's about taxes. So maybe people won't really get the difference. Anyways, here is, am I funded by George Soros? Definitely yes. So here's the latest video. I hope you guys have a really great week. And yeah, take care. I haven't watched any new videos. I gotta go. Bye.